Welcome into Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and right now there's a lot of us, including myself, who owe this man to my left an apology. We have to say sorry to John Schneider because he made the right decision in the offseason here for your Seattle Seahawks, and many of us disagreed with him. We're going to get into that, but before we do, I need to ask you a question. Has John Schneider built a playoff roster in Seattle? Personally, I think he has. I would rank this statement as a 12 out of 12. That means the utmost confidence that this Seahawks team is going to make it in the playoffs. Let me know what you think down below. Now, John Schneider, he took a risk, man. You had a quarterback in Geno Smith who, I get it, he was a little bit unhappy. He basically forced your hand that he was going to leave because you did offer him a contract extension and he said no. But the risk was, do you find a way to overpay for Geno? There has to be a number at some point that he would give into. Or do you look elsewhere? Are you able to find another player that can come in and take over in that quarterback role? And John Schneider said, yes, I think I can. He trades Geno Smith away to the Las Vegas Raiders for a third-round pick, and he brings in free agency, Sam Darnold. Now, a lot of people did not love the Sam Darnold trading. I myself kind of looked at it as one of those, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. You could kind of go either way. But there were a lot of people that said, man, Sam Darnold just isn't it. When you look at this QB room, do you trust Sam Darnold, the guy who was basically a one-hit wonder when it came to how well he performed last year, to lead this team? Drew Lock has shown that he is a true blue NFL backup. He's a quality backup, but that does not mean that you're going to win a lot of games if he comes in as your starting quarterback. He's one of those guys where you're going to be very happy if he plays 4 games where you go 1-3. And then obviously you end up drafting Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe in a lot of people's eyes is a project, and that's exactly what he has been. Now, I want to dive more into Sam Darnold than his last 4 seasons because there were some people that said, hey, look, 2024, 66% completions. That's a guy who was in the MVP race all the way up until the very end. I believe he was a top 10 MVP vote getter. That's a guy that could do some things here in Seattle. But then there were also a lot of people that said, what are you talking about? Don't look at 2024. Look at 23. Look at 2022. Look at 2021. He's a backup. He didn't make it in Carolina. He didn't make it in New York. He was a guy who was seeing ghosts. He's throwing more interceptions than he is passing touchdowns. He's not even at 60% completion for 2 of the years that are on the screen. So there were a lot of people, and I get it, a lot of experts, a lot of casuals, a lot of just fans of the NFL in general that were saying Sam Darnold is a one-hit wonder. You cannot trust someone who has shown you over the majority of their body of work, over the majority of their career, that they are not a starting caliber player. And John Schneider just had to take a lot of heat from those, honestly, around the entire NFL. I mean, shoot, right now you can look and see some of the draft grades that immediately came out and say, hey, you're pretty freaking wrong about some of these things. Look at the heat that John Schneider had to take right away. This one's from Bleacher Report. They gave the Seahawks a C grade on the trade and the Raiders an A. Why did Bleacher Report do this? Because they said, hey, the Raiders went out and they got their QB of the future. They got someone that can help lead them to victories. They're a roster that, frankly, they needed a quarterback at the helm that could step in, take over. They had such a revolving door. That's an A move by them. Seattle, it's a C. Why? Because you didn't get really anything in return. There wasn't an idea yet of who was going to be taken in that 3rd pick. A lot of people looked at the free agency class and said, wow, I don't really like anybody that's in this class. Who are you going to go and sign? Is anyone really going to make that big of a difference? So this is a C. You had a good quarterback and you let him go. Why would you do that? When you look at NFL.com's version, they were a little bit nicer to our Seattle Seahawks and John Schneider, and they said, hey, it's a C+, man. Geno didn't want to be there. It's time to move on from him. You're doing a full reset. You're going to trade DK Metcalf. You're going to restart this roster. It's going to look more in the image of what Mike McDonald wants. So why don't you move on from him? It's not that big of a deal. You're going to suck anyways. So it's a C+. You get some return capital. And they looked at the Raiders and they said, hey, man, that's a B+. Geno Smith is a fine quarterback. Some people say he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. but he's not someone that's going to lead this Raiders team to the playoffs, but he gives them some stability, just like Pete Carroll. When you look at USA Today's grade, they said the Seahawks, and they were the harshest of anybody, are just a dumpster fire. C-. This is a team that just missed out on the playoffs, and instead of building on that, they said, hey, you guys are completely done. You're moving on. You're not going to find someone. You might as well go and make a move in the draft. Try and get one of these quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, like Jackson Dart. Insert Tyler Shuck here, right? Any of these rookie quarterbacks, you might as well go and get them and make them your QB because there's no one worth it in free agency. Gave the Raiders an A-. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, going back and reading through some of these takes, they had the Raiders going to the playoffs because of this move as a wildcard team. I'm not here to just shout out these 3 wrong examples of early trade grades. There were multiple of us in the media, multiple people around the country that were saying John Schneider got fleeced. Geno Smith needed to stay in Seattle. There were a lot of people that were saying this was not the right move to be made. There were a lot of people, a lot of NFL experts, that viewed this trade as a loss for your Seattle Seahawks. Frankly, sometimes that happens. Sometimes people are wrong. Sometimes, without all the facts, people like to make a rush to judgment. And I get it, man. Geno Smith, the last couple of years when he was in Seattle, he was a lot better than everybody gave him credit for. I don't disagree with why they thought he would be good when he went to Las Vegas. I was disappointed when the initial trade went through. Yeah, I was fired up, man. I didn't love it. But then I kind of sat back and I said, hey, I need to trust John Schneider. I need to trust that he's going to come in and find someone that's the right trade piece. I need to trust this front office that they can go in and make the right moves for us. I had some time to self-reflect. I've now given you multiple months. Shoot, I've given you 4 games through the entire NFL season to sit back and think about the Geno Smith trade. I want you to be honest right now. When this trade originally went down, did you like that Seattle traded Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders? Reply down below in the comments, yes or no. We'll have a nice, fun discussion together. I got to get into some of this year's stats so far, but before I do that, I want to talk to you about today's proud sponsor, Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Monday Night Football tonight, I have a 2-pick power play. Tua, less than 235.5 passing yards against the Jets. Bo Nix, more than 223.5 passing yards against Cincinnati. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now, I want to compare the 2 quarterbacks. I told you that going into this episode. We're going to look at everything. What makes this trade a winner? What makes this trade a loser? Who is the top dog? Who's going to come out as the number 1 QB? It's a little bit unfair to grade them right now, but I think that once you look through the grades, and if both quarterbacks continue to play the way they have been playing, I think you're going to see which one is clearly the winner. Sam Darnold right now is completing 70% of his throws. More importantly, he's not turning the football over. He's only got 2 interceptions on the year. Those are both in the same game. When you look at Geno Smith, yeah, you got more passing yards than Sam Darnold, but you're throwing the ball more because you're down more. You're not winning football games. You're not completing the ball at the same percentage that Sam Darnold is. And most importantly, you're giving other teams the opportunity to steal possessions from you if you're Geno Smith. That is too many turnovers. Mike Macdonald wants a quarterback that comes in and doesn't turn the ball over. He made it clear last year. Sam Darnold has been awesome in Seattle. He's exactly what Mike Macdonald wants. Macdonald wants a game manager who gets the ball out on time, gets the ball completed to his players, and doesn't set the offense up in third and longs, or even worse, gives extra opportunities to the other teams. You saw the Raiders lose to the Chicago Bears on Sunday. And the reason they lost is because Geno Smith turned the ball over. Geno Smith has been careless with the football, an issue that he had in Seattle that cost you games at times. Was Geno the main problem when he was here? No, he was not. But I don't know that he would play in the system as well as Sam Darnold has. John Schneider made the correct move. He looked at a quarterback room and said, I can get more out of this group. I can go and find a quarterback that fits the system better. And he took a lot of heat. There were people that had Geno Smith as a top 10 quarterback in this league and Sam Darnold out of the top 20. I think there's a lot of people that would like to change their grade as quick as they possibly can. At this point, we need to trust John Schneider more. He has been absolutely nails for the most part since he's tuned in and been the GM in Seattle. He built the Legion of Boom. He built you a Super Bowl championship roster. And then what he did is he's now rebuilt a roster into a playoff team. And the roster he had built a little bit before, while it might not have been a Super Bowl roster, it was a pretty darn good playoff roster, I'd say. We all need to trust him more because John Schneider has done it again. He's built a great offense in Seattle that can win you a lot of football games. Make sure you help us out here on the channel. You like Seahawks content every single day. Go and give this video a nice thumbs up. Give us a like. We love doing content for you. We want to make sure that we're able to continue to do it at the highest level we possibly can. Until next time, I'll see you later.